It was beating everything. Best Chevelles, 396, 375. Those were nothing for this car.
This car was called the Black Ghost on the west side of Detroit.
It would come out, win a lot of races, and then disappear.
It was a legend.
This is a very rare car, made in 1970 only.
It's one of 22 four-speed Hemi Challenger RTSCs, but to be triple black with a gator grain, the best options you could get, it's the ultimate.
This car is set up for racing.
Chrysler was ahead of their time. The quality in their drivetrains, like that Hemi, you just can't beat it to this day.
My dad's always been a type of person that he likes the best.
He knew he wanted the baddest, and he ordered it.
This car was the king of the street in those days.
Nobody really knew who owned it. He would just cruise up and down, and guys would pull up to you, and if you beat the guy first, second, third to the next light, you were the winner. But Godfrey never stopped.
We talked to so many people that heard about the mystery car, all these wonderful stories.
That's when I figured out I need to know what's special about this car. My dad, Godfrey Qualls, was born in 1942, and he was raised in Nashville, Tennessee. Their family moved up to Detroit for the automotive jobs during that time.
We met when we were about 12 or 13 young kids together. We would ride our bikes over to Belle Isle and fish. We shared a lot of the common interests. I was in the model trains, Godfrey was in the model trains. We raced. Everything we did was racing, okay? I had a Lionel, he had American Flyer, okay? It just everything, it was always competitive, but it wasn't the situation where guys get competitive and want to fight with one another. Our competitive was, okay, well, I'll get you the next time. I would say he and I was as close as brothers could get. And we were still in high school at this time. We lived in an area where there was a lot of drugs, where there was a lot of crime, but none of us did that. We were local kids, didn't get into trouble, but we got into racing, oval track racing, and drag racing. We had a special spot in Detroit where we would race, and the police didn't bother us. It was just drag races.
On Woodward, they would run light to light, and then sometimes they would take it to the back streets, and that's when they took it real serious. A full quarter-mile race.
Our street that I grew up on the far west side of Detroit, they'd come by your house and do a burnout. It was like calling you out. And they'd all go down the street, me and the kids in the neighborhood. We'd drive our Schwinn's and run down there and watch them drag race till like 2 in the morning.
It was a way of releasing, it's a way of entertainment. It was a way to see what the car could really do. Godfrey is a good guy in that he wore a lot of hats.
Well, as a soldier, he was in the 82nd Airborne.
I was drafted, but I was ready because I did 3 years of high school ROTC. It was a challenge.
Between 1964 and 1966, he served in the Dominican Republic.
The U.S. government went down to curb some kind of uprising and so forth.
Earlier today, I ordered 2,000 extra men to proceed immediately to the Dominican Republic.
I was all over the Dominican Republic. I mean, it was a beautiful island. I just took on the responsibility as a soldier, and I just made things work out, as best as I could. I was shot at many times. As a matter of fact, we were attacked by an old airplane, an old P-38, and my buddies and I had to run through a fence to get out of the way from bullets.
One time they were at a safe zone. It was supposed to have been safe zone.
Someone threw a hand grenade at us. It exploded, and I was wounded, and so was one of my buddies.
He still has fragmentation in his body from the grenade. That's what he got the Purple Heart for.
He was a paratrooper, by the way. He loved jumping out of planes.
As a matter of fact, it was an addiction. I love my job.
He's probably had over 300 jumps. He's one of the very few people that can actually do a jump and do a standing landing.
I had a good time. They took care of me. I was dedicated to them. I really wanted to stay in. I changed my mind and said, hey, I haven't been home in a while. Good old Detroit. I'm gonna go home and see my family. I learned a lot in the military. It helped me become a fan-rounded young man. As a matter of fact, it even helped me become a better police officer.
In the police department, he was in traffic enforcement. So his day-to-day was writing tickets. He wouldn't write tickets for 5 over. He'd write tickets for 20 over.
He wasn't like a lot of cops. At that time, we had the big four, and they would pull you in the car and want to beat you up and all that. He wasn't like that. Not only that, he wasn't an officer in the car. He rode the motorcycle, and kids were infatuated. Oh, here's a motorcycle cop coming around. And he was the kind of guy that took interest in the kids in the neighborhood, raising them right. And being a policeman, he got a lot of respect.
My dad was a very good judge of character. He has to be. When you pull people over, it's the way you talk to people. He would get to know you. You didn't want enemies on the street. He's what I would say the definition of community policing. Out of the 37 years as being a police officer, he only drew his weapon once.
You just have to use a lot of discretion about things. You have to be fair, and you have to be honest, and you have to make good judgments. That was the good part about it.
The new Ford Mustang for the new breed of Americans who want the elegance of a European touring car and till now had to settle for basic transportation.
These young people nowadays, they've got their own music, their own way of looking at things. They've got their own car, too. Camaro by Chevrolet.
Chrysler wanted to be the #1 automaker. They wanted that pony car to compete with the Camaro and the Mustang. They had the Chargers, the Roadrunners, the GTX. Those were full, almost 18-foot-long B-bodies. And they had the 69 Dart Barracudas, but it was a little heavy in the front end. They didn't really have the pony car they wanted. So that's when they came in with the Challenger and the Cuda for 1970.
The new performance champ, Cuda.
The all-new sports compact, the Dodge Challenger.
The June '69 Chrysler Magazine cover was a model sitting on the Challenger, and that says coming, the new Dodge Challenger. But they had it blacked out because they didn't want you to see it before the actual release date. And there was rumors when they were being built in Hamtramck, but they didn't release it until late of '69.
Take the Challenger. I've seen how the young people take to style like this, and this one has it for them.
They had the best advertising. They were just very creative.
What's wrong, officer? Violation of City Order 11-14, operating a racing type vehicle inside the city limits.
Oh, officer, this is the new Dodge Challenger RT. It's not a racer.
What kind of tires, them, boy?
Optional polyglass GTs.
Racing tires. Put that doohickey in there, boy.
Well, that's a new optional slapstick racing shift.
If you can handle the way people react to your 1970 Dodge Challenger, you could be Dodge material.
Chrysler for the 70, they came out with all these crazy colors. Plum Crazy, Go Mango, Hemi Orange. Sublime, they had Panther Pink for about 3 months. And then one of the executives upstairs found out they were building pink cars. Oh no, we are not building pink cars at Chrysler Corporation. So they killed the paint. It was a great success. The Challenger and the Cuda was the pony car that they really needed.
In the pony car class, Hemi will maul Mustang and cream Camaro.
Street racing, they were the king. The E-body was the king.
Ford still has their same old problem. They keep building turkeys with big displacements, and the word is around.
They sold quite a few Challengers. You could go in there and order whatever you wanted. Not too many guys just checked off the boxes Godfrey did. That is one very unique individual and car.
When he bought the car, he was 27. He's just that type of person where, I want these certain things and I'm going to get what I want.
Chrysler, one of their problems was they had too many options, but to this day, this is what makes them worth more than most of the other muscle cars.
$3.5 billion world record muscle car.
Everything they did was just ahead of their time.
The Hemi is the only real racing engine in all of Detroit that you can dial up from your corner dealer with relative ease. You can't just tick off a Boss 429 on a Ford order form and expect to get it.
Having that Hemi, that was a big thing to him because that was the top engine you could have. That was the best of the best during that time. 425 horsepower engine. Like, who had that? Very few people.
If you owned a Mopar, you were kind of unique because they didn't build a whole lot of them.
That was the only Hemi that we really knew of in Detroit at that time. There was race Hemis, but not on the street.
The Golden Commando in lane 2 moves first.
Hemi cars were the ones to beat.
Thornton wins with a top end speed of 128.20.
Chrysler came out with the Hemi back in the early 50s.
The combustion chamber is hemispherical in shape. The result is the ability of the engine to inhale the maximum amount of fuel and air mixture and exhale the exhaust gases in the shortest possible time.
They always had the Hemi motor, the 331, the 354, the 392, they only made 2 years. That was the baddest of them all.
To this day, all your top fuel, funny cars, and drag, it's the same motor that makes this much power. They're making 12 to 15,000 horsepower today. GM's president back in the mid-60s put a 400 cubic inch limit on their cars except for the Corvette. He was old school. We're not gonna corrupt youth. We're not gonna put them in vehicles with big motors, which really hurt them. Chrysler there was no holds barred. We want the biggest, baddest motor we can build.
They had the Hemi design already, as far as they had, but to make one durable for what they wanted, they really started from scratch. All their young engine development guys were racers, drag racers. The Ram Chargers, they started in the late 50s.
Strickler doesn't have a chance this time against the engineer from Detroit.
In Highland Park, in their headquarters, they would drag race on the back lots. A great group of guys. Tom Hoover, Al Nichols, who was head of carburation, they were all young guys at heart.
Their philosophy was, win on Sunday,
Dodge is the top stock car at the National.
sell on Monday.
They spent over $1 million developing that motor in '63 and '4, which today would be crazy money. The Hemi was race only, drag or NASCAR. There was so much public reaction that they were going to release a Hemi to the public in '66.
Hold your hat. A street version of the hottest engine on the stock car circuit, the 426 cubic inch Hemi.
They made it available in any of the B bodies in '66, and you could get it in a convertible, which are very, very rare. They were an expensive car. It was like almost $800 over cost with all the suspension and everything. So you had to have a decent job to afford one. It escalated every year. The Hemi pushed the other automakers to catch up.
Plymouth wins.
That's how far Chrysler was ahead. They had the best drivetrains, and they had the lightest cars. It was like a match you could not duplicate in any era.
Anybody bought a Hemi car knew what it was, and they were out to race on the weekends, Friday and Saturday night.
See, we used to go to drag racing all the time. He knew about racing like I did. So when he ordered it, it was no guessing. The 410 ran, the heavy duty springs, the bump stop, all that was ordered with that car.
All these big Mopar collectors, they would kill to be able to go to the dealer and order this car. And he had the foresight. I think he was one of the smartest guys to ever order a Hemi car.
He had to have a 4-speed because that's the way he was. He likes the color black. He wants that all black.
Chrysler didn't actually build very many black cars. If you see a real black muscle car, it was ordered. Triple black is very rare on a Mopar.
When he ordered it, originally he was supposed to have a black vinyl top with a shaker hood. So I think something happened with his order. They screwed up royally on it. He saw the Gator grain, was like, he loved it and he didn't love it all at the same time.
He didn't like the top, to be honest. I said, so what? The car's got everything else. Don't worry about the top. And sure enough, that's what makes the car unique.
And he likes little luxury, so he wanted the SE options that he checked. He wanted the finer details on the car and that nicer trim package.
The SE package is phenomenal. You got all the chrome moldings, the trim in the lower valance, below the bumper, on top of the door, the belt line, all that stuff. And the overhead console. You got the small back window, they hit a fiberglass plug. He checked off rear defogger, white bumblebee stripe, the houndstooth interior.
He got the Hurst shifter.
He wanted the pop-up NASCAR-style gas cap, too. And he ordered the very rare locking gas cap.
Wow.
Even that right side mirror, that's a rare option.
Yeah, because they only come with the one
left
side
side
mirror,
and
right?
he wanted the hood pins. He didn't want the hood to fly up at over 100 miles an hour. And AM/FM, because we had one good radio station in Detroit, WABX.
99 FM, real rock radio, constantly. WABX.
And they played a whole side of albums, so he wanted AM/FM for that. I would have loved to have been there with that salesman, and he's just checking this, I want this, I want this.
The night he got it, he said, hey, Kurt, come on over here, I got something to show. He didn't tell me he had got the car. And I was really surprised, you know. It was on a cold night, but I said, hey, let's wait. The weather's gonna warm up. We'll see what the big boy can do. It came alive when May and June come. That car was a terror on the street. That car made a name for itself. We knew we had a dominant car. This car had power. Chrysler rated at 425 horsepower. Actual dyno power on this car was 470 horsepower.
It would appear on Woodward, he'd make some passes, and then you wouldn't see the car again for a month or two. They called it the Black Ghost.
That just traveled all around.
Everybody knew the car existed, but nobody hardly saw it. They heard, oh yeah, I got beat by that black Hemi Challenger. Our neighbor, they bought a 427 Corvette aluminum head motor, and then they stuffed it in this brand new Camaro, strictly to be the fastest king on Woodward and look for the baddest Hemi car that they heard of, which was the Black Ghost.
In the summertime, we would race cars. That was it.
Yeah, he knew how to drive it, that's for sure.
GQ, the street racer, I don't know much about that. My dad kind of didn't tell me about that part, but from what I know, he would go to the street called Stucker.
Stucker is a street in Detroit. The police didn't bother you because it was an industrial area. There were no houses, no cross street, and we had a full quarter-mile and stopping area. We had it all marked off. We had a flagman and everything. We raced together with that car. I'm on the passenger seat, he's driving. He wanted to show that he was the baddest cat around, okay? And I was his sidekick. We had a gentleman from West Bloomfield that had a vet, was terrorizing everybody. So I said, Godfrey, we cannot play around with this guy. This guy's got as much power as you do, and he's lighter. I said, the thing that you got over him is the 410. Rear end.
A 410 axle digs out faster than a 323 because you get more engine turn.
You get him off the line, it's a done deal. And that's when we put the slicks on it, because I used to race too. I said, we'll put the slicks on this car. So we won't be spinning, and he's spinning. When the flagman dropped his hand, we was gone. We were gone. I said, Godfrey, shift this car when I holler. And I was telling him, shift, man, shift. Shift this car. We won it.
The guy with the Corvette actually wanted to come back, and they raced another time. Boom, he pulled out the hole again, beat him again.
We hollered and screamed, yes, yes, yes. We were just excited. Jubilation is flowing out of us. You know what I mean? Two little boys from east side of Detroit beat the rich guy. So it was a good feeling. I mean, we were hollering and screaming, and everybody was happy for us. That car, it was like a second home to me. It requires discipline. You got to work on that car. That becomes your main interest. That keeps you out of trouble. It also makes your mind sharp because you got to think about what you're doing. Well, if I do this, will it make it faster or will it slower? So it's a thinking man's game too. And that's the thing I liked about Godfrey. He would think about things and we'd talk about it. I don't think that car ever lost a street race.
I think he liked the thrill. You know, you could imagine a man jumping out of airplanes and getting a rush, and now he buys this Hemi Challenger, and then he's having another rush, so he's simulating basically, you know, what he was doing in the military. He always had a wild side to him. You know, you do things as a young man. I'm pretty sure it wasn't legal at all. I'm pretty sure it's very illegal. As a kid, my first memory was when I was sitting in the kitchen eating dinner, and then my dad would start the car up and it'd shake the whole house. It'd be rumbling like, it was pretty amazing. It was like, wow, what is that? I remember when he put me in the passenger seat, then he would take a little piece of tape and then take the $100 bill on the dash. He says, you have to wait. When I go, if you can reach that $100 bill, then it's all yours. So he said, go, and I went to go grab it. I was in motion. I was just like, he just put me in the back of the seat. I couldn't get it, and I was scared. That's what I do remember. I would ride my bike, and as a kid, you know, you don't care. You just throw your bike in the garage and then put it right next to the car, and when the bike falls over and hits the car, you're like, oops. And then you hope your dad didn't see it. I really wish, thinking about that time, that I didn't do that, but, you know, things happen, and it's part of the car's story and history now. I had a very good relationship with my father. I mean, I probably had the best relationship a son could have with his father. He supported me in a lot of the things that I did. I used to race RC cars. He helped me tune the car and set the motor. He spotted the car for me. I used to win a lot of races, and he'd cheer me on. And I used to lose a lot of races, but he'd just tell me, he says, you know what, don't worry about it. You know, just get back on track. We had a lot of good times together. My mom drove the car. That was kind of a cool thing, that your mom driving a Hemi car, you know?
Yeah, not too many guys could say that. He used it right up. I mean, he put 45,000 miles on it.
He put a trailer hitch on a Hemi car. Like, who would go figure, right? He did that because he loved to ride bikes. Oh, he loved bikes just as much as he loves the car.
I asked him if he would go camping. He goes, no, I'm going my motorcycles with that.
In 77, I went back into the Army, and I went into the Special Forces group, and I got my Green Beret. I became a Green Beret.
For an older guy to go back into the military, that's why you always say you had to show these young boys how to do it. My dad, you know, he was in the 82nd Airborne. After he did that, he went back in, so he calls himself the Zulu Warrior. So that's what those stickers are for on both sides. During the 80s and 90s, the car just basically sat in the garage. It just sat and sat and sat. There was other things that were more important, and that was his family. Just life took over.
The car disappeared, just completely disappeared. He put the car in the garage in blocks, and nobody knew where the car went. They all thought it was wrecked or something. It meant a whole world to him because it was something that he had that no one else had. And when it come time to sell, it was the sentimental value. He couldn't let it go. One gentleman came from Canada with cash, and he offered him, I think at that time, $85,000. I said, why didn't you take it? He said, nah, no, it's a part of me. It was a part of him.
I never saw this car until 1980, and that was by a fluke. There was a guy on the east side. We'd swap parts. His name was Steve Petrovic. I was over there. It was like Saturday around 1:30 in the afternoon, and Godfrey had just come over. He was trying to get his Challenger running, and Steve, in his Yugoslavian accent, This dude, he raced on the street Hemi, he know Hemi good. I'm well known for a lot of rare Hemi cars. So I said, yeah, I'll take a look at what you got. He never really said nothing. He just said, I got a 70 Hemi Challenger, but it's been parked. I'd like to get it running and start driving again. So when we went over there, you know, this is a 1.5 car garage, non-insulated. He had locks on it. He opened up the door and he had the car kind of covered up except for the hood. The first thing I seen was a brand new NOS shaker hood up against the wall in the right corner. The ultimate option, the shaker hood. And I said, oh, you bought that to put on the car after you ordered it? He goes, no.
When my dad originally ordered the car, it was supposed to have the shaker hood.
The 426 Hemi, available on Challenger RT, so's this shaker hood.
The shaker hood's a special hood so that the top of the engine can stick up above the hood. And as the engine's running, you can see it shake. It allows fresh air to come into the engine to give you a little bit more power. Strangers will tell me, hey, your dad, that was supposed to be a shaker car, and he never got to shake. I'm like, what, really? Like,
the dealership salesman told him, if you want a shaker hood, go order a CUDA. The salesman really made him mad. That's why he went after him and he sued him.
Right. Yeah, that sounds like my dad. That's how he was. That's how he was.
He was quiet until he was mad, I think. When he won that shaker hood, the judge said the dealership he bought it from has to put it on the car for, you know, that's part of his deal. But he said, I'll never leave it at the dealership, because he knew the porters would be out on the back streets tearing the heck out of his car while they were doing it. So that's why he never put the hood on. They didn't make it available until after he successfully sued them. So April 15th of 70, they sent a memo to dealers that Shaker Hood is now available. This car has significance to any Chrysler enthusiast. The Challenger Shaker Hood became available in late of 70 was because of Godfrey in this car. The first thing I says, how much you want for the Shaker? He goes, nope, I can't sell it. He goes, it goes to my car. And I said, okay, let's see what you got. And then when he took the blankets off the top and I seen the gator grain, the SE package, I about had a heart attack, you know? I was like, wow. I just said, where did you get this car? He goes, I special ordered it. This is my baby. He said, I used to go up on Woodward once in a while, and I'd run a few guys, and then I'd come home. It's all sinking in that this is the ghost. This is the legend, and here I am looking at it. Everybody on the west side, the east side, to this day, they're still talking about this car. It was just phenomenal that after all these years, here is the black ghost, you know? Couldn't get it running. It was getting no spark. So as soon as I opened up the gas cap, I could smell the gas was bad. So I said, well, we can't use that. You're gonna have to pull a tank and we're gonna have to clean it or maybe get a new tank and sending unit. But instead I said, we can just run a rubber hose into a gas can off the fuel pump. But when I took the distributor cap off, it was all corroded bad from sitting in this garage. I said, well, Godfrey, I'll take the distributor home, I'll clean it, I'll set the dual points. I made a special tool to prime the oil pump with the distributor out. And then the Sunday, I went back over and it fired right up. Once we put the gas can, primed it, that car fired up like it was just sitting a week ago. I mean, it ran phenomenally. The look on his face, I'd never seen such a smile. He was like, my baby lives. I stayed in touch with him for quite a few years, but I was still living in Detroit. Last time I talked to him was 1990, but he never drove the car after that Sunday we had it running.
When we first had Gregory, my son, my dad was very excited. He was very proud of us. During that time, I needed a babysitter. So we would drop little Gregory off to my dad, and he would hang with him all day long. My dad would take him everywhere he went. He called him his little road dog because he's always hanging with him. It was a good moment for me. Now my son gets the chance to spend time with my dad like I did. One time in around 2014, he called me over and said, hey, son, why don't you come over and have a beer with me? He says, okay, we're gonna go in the garage. And I said, okay, Dad, we're going to the garage. You want to talk about something? He starts uncovering the car. He didn't really say much. And I looked at it and I said, wow, you know, this is a nice car. The more I start looking at the car, the more interest I start building in the car. And I said, you know what, Dad, this car's so dusty. Let's just clean it up. And we did that together. And we just wiped down the car. And it was a pretty good experience, you know. I didn't know at that time. I think he was trying to tell me that he was sick. He had prostate cancer. He got it in 2008. Then he had the surgery, and it went to remission. So we thought, you know, thinking, oh, my dad's gonna be around for a while. The doctor said he was, you know. I'm thinking, okay, he got over that, yay. And it came back, and it metastasized into bone cancer. And then, you know, things start going downhill from there. I went to go visit my dad in the hospital. It was around December 21st. He said, son, I'm gonna draw you a map because it's hard for me to explain, and I want you to go follow this map and get the envelope for me, and I want you to bring it up to the hospital tomorrow. The next day, I go back to the house and I follow his little map, and then I found his envelope. So I get to the hospital and he opens up the envelope and it's all the paperwork for the car, and he just signed the title right there and gave me the title. It almost put me in tears because I never wanted the car that way. As he hands me the title to the car, he says, don't give my car away. That's exactly how he said it. That's what he said. My dad passed Christmas Eve of 2015.
I knew he wanted the funeral to be small. I said, there's no way, because he touched so many people's lives, and we had so many people there just to say thank you. He did this for me. He did that for me. He'll take his shirt off and give it to you. That's the type of person he was.
His spirit That's what I miss the most, you know. That, you know, yeah, we can do it, you know. He is my hero to me. The only problem with it, every time I think about him, sometimes I miss him.
When I met him, he used to tell me we had this car, and it was just in a garage, covered with blankets and other stuff on it, and it was just a car. But then after he passed, maybe 2-3 months, then we started getting calls. I'm sorry about your dad, but does he still have that car? He knew it was a special car, and he kept it all these years. But why people kept calling about this car?
Later, I realized that he had all these parts in the back trunk of the car, and they were to restore the car. That's when I kind of knew that he wanted to show this car. I felt, you know what? I have to take this thing to the car show. I mean, I have to. You know, I brought it home, and I was on a mission to get it running. A few people, you know, like my appraisers and stuff, were looking at it and says, well, you know, I don't know if this thing's gonna run. You're gonna have to get the car restored. And when you're hearing all these things, and you're just thinking like, wow, like it's a lot of money and, you know, a lot of negativity. I couldn't stop. It was like an addiction, you know. We didn't want to go into the engine too much because we were afraid of what would happen if we start turning bolts and they break on us. And then I thought about it and I says, well, let's keep the car as original as possible for right now until we get a chance to talk to a few people and see what's the best course of action. You know, what should I do?
I figured all these years, you know, somebody got it, but I've never seen the car pop up until about 4 years ago. And a guy that I grew up with in Detroit calls me up wanting a Hemi dual point distributor for a 70 Challenger. I said, Mike, what do you need a Hemi dual point for? He goes, I work for this guy, and he's got a little hot rod shop in Detroit, and they're trying to get this 70 Challenger Hemi car going. I says, in Detroit? He goes, yeah. I says, is this a triple black, RTSE, Gator Grain, 45,000 original miles, 4-speed houndstooth, loaded? He was like quiet for a minute. He goes, yeah, how do you know? I says, I know the owner. I said, give him my phone number and have him call me. He goes, well, I'm sad to say that he passed away. His son has it, and they wanted to get it running. I says, tell him, please, let me see the car before they touch it. This car is very rare and original. So it took about a week and a half for them to warm up to me, but when Mike told them I knew the car and I knew his dad, you know, I got reacquainted with the Black Ghost. Now I know how the smile he has. I was like, no, I'm getting goosebumps. You know, this is it to me. This car is the coolest car that I've ever been associated with and had the luck to work on it.
So we put fresh plugs in it, fresh wires, and now it's time, the moment of truth. Will it start up? It's been sitting for 37 years. We'll see what happens. All right. Probably the first 3 or 4 tries, it didn't want to start. We had nothing. This is like, oh. But as my dad always say, never give up. Okay, we're gonna try another time. This is our, 5th time? And eventually, we turned the key and it started right up. And it was just like, wow. It was kind of a big rush, you know, like, yeah. So now we gotta keep it running. Next step. From there, then we started doing other things like the brakes. That took another couple months. We had to replace all the rubber. I mean, it was just deteriorating. That car was my life for a year, the whole year. When the car was able to come out of the garage for the first time on its own power, that was a sight. Oh yeah, that was the moment. I was just like, yes, Dad, I did it, you know. We did it. We got it on the road for the first time. I said, Greggy, come on, get in the car. We'll take you for a spin, a ride.
Hello, we're in a 1970 Dodge Hemi Challenger 427. Wow!
You just have a good old time. We spend like 30 minutes out on the road doing 25 miles an hour, cruising. Yeah. I just love the way the car drives. It's kind of unique, it's different. I feel connected to it when I'm actually driving and shifting. Every time I actually get in the car and drive it, I can feel my dad's presence and the spirit there. My actual first big event was at McCacken, the Muscle Car and Corvette Nationals in Chicago. It made me feel good. It made me feel proud. My wife, my daughter, Gregory, and I, we all go out and we just have a good old time.
We took this to the Autorama, and a lot of people came and said, is that such and such car? And is that where's Godfrey at? I said, I'm sorry, but he passed. Like, what? And he was off somewhere. I had to call him back. I said, this guy knows, and get more just to get the stories. It was just amazing.
I found out about the street racing. People would come up to me and says, yeah, I've seen that car. I know that car. That car is a legend. That's a myth. And I'm like, what? Yeah, your dad used to race down the alleys of Detroit.
That's when we figured it out and started investigating ourselves. And then he got in touch with other family members and was like, he did what? And then he was like, no, he couldn't. I said, who would make up stories like that he used to drag race, put slicks on it, and take off as a cop?
I started doing research on the car and started studying the facts. I became a car guy. Every time we take the car out, is always an interest. All black Hemi car with a gator grain top. A lot of people haven't seen a car with the top like that. I want it to be a survivor car, because that's what it is. It's only original once, right?
It's still unrestored, and it still runs great. It's never been touched. It still has the original valve cover gaskets, the intake. Motor's never been apart, never been out of the car.
To see that car, for me, it brought back a lot of memories that I didn't even think about. Happy ones. Yeah, man, like I said, man, that's 50 years ago. I mean, way back, man. I didn't think I'd be alive this long. Being with Godfrey and his son, it's very touching to me too, because I've seen it from day one. It's a good feeling.
So there was one Army man in the car, and my dad basically had that because of the military. And so my son saw that and said, hey, that's GQ. So then he goes back in the house and he finds two little Army men, and then he says, you know what, these belong with the car. And then he sticks them in the car. And then my son says, that's GQ, you, Dad, and me.
He's carrying on his father's legacy, and he could have sold it too.
My plan is to keep the car so it can go down to a third generation.
It's awesome. I like taking rides in it.
How does this car make you feel when you
Like GQ.
It's something about that car that they hold on to.
I think my dad would be proud. I think he'd be smiling down on us from cheek to cheek.